Hello and welcome to the Gazette discussion for 22nd July 2021. My name is Harsh Singh and this discussion will contain many interesting articles. Our discussion is divided in two videos. The first video will contain the featured news for today, which is on automation and future of work. Deloitte and an important organization Autodesk, they have revealed in a study that Asia Pacific region will lose a lot of jobs because of automation, also presented because of corona crisis, right? So therefore this featured discussion will contain what are the sectors which will lose more jobs in the Asia Pacific region, specifically India, and accordingly how India is planning to buck up and to transit from the traditional mode of employment to the advanced mode of employment in the coming years. The second video will contain all the rest of the articles. This day in history is about Apple, definitely not the IT and software giant Apple. Let us see what it is about. New snapshots. The three snapshots that we have for you today are: one, India in the Troika Plus dialogue on Afghanistan, an update on the same. The second is about how RBI is helping the policy transmission and the economy, revival of this economy, Indian economy. The third one is on financial literacy curriculum, which is a part of financial inclusion in India, right? Image of the day is on China, Shanghai Astronomy Museum, a beautiful museum created and innovated by China. Terms and concept. The three terms that we have for you today are: one, Kapu community from the Telangana Andhra region, Stand Up India scheme, which has been now extended up to the year 2025. And third is One District, One Focus program. So we will understand what these three key terms are. Editorial of the day. Today we have an editorial on India's job and skill confusion, right? So important article also relating to the featured news for today, right? And then we have the case study of the day, which is from Nilgiri Hills, from Nilgiri, Tamil Nadu, where participatory forest management has yielded great results. So let us start this discussion. This day in history is on Apple. Now, Apple here stands for Ariane passenger payload experiment, right? So this was the first experimental communication satellite which was successfully launched by India, right? So India's first geostationary satellite, right? Now, this is the satellite here, and this was launched using the European Space Agency's Ariane rocket. So we did not have rocket technology then, but we definitely started inventing the satellites. So this was first India's geostationary satellite. This is where we should understand what is a geostationary satellite. Now, geostationary satellites are those satellites which are at a distance of around 36,000 kilometers away from Earth. So this far, right? And they are stationary with respect to Earth. That means a satellite placed well above India will always be above India. So this is a geostationary satellite. Now, they are good for communication because they will always be in front of India, right? And therefore they'll be able to communicate all the time. So the best part is that they are always above equator, and so this is how they are able to communicate with that specific place. So good for communication. This later developed potential for India to develop now INSAT series of satellite and GSAT, right? So those satellites which are important for communication. Now, there's also something called as geosynchronous satellites. So these geosync satellites are in sync with the Earth motion also. Now, the geostationary satellites are one type of geosynchronous satellites. In geosync satellites, the place on Earth, for example, at India, the satellite will be at 7 p.m. in the evening every day. This is what is geosynchronous. And then it will also move to other parts of the world, right? At different times, but 7 p.m. it'll be back to India again. So this is a geosynchronous satellite. But geostationary satellite, it is always above equator and always in front of that particular country where it is located, right? So this is the difference between these two satellites. Now, important to note here is that this payload was carried out. This payload was sent on space from equator, right? So from French Guiana, that is an equatorial country in South America, right? So this is the place from where the geostationary satellites were sent. New snapshot. The first snapshot is on India getting invitation for Troika dialogue on Afghanistan. So Russia this time has called India. It has invited India and Iran to participate in the Troika plus dialogue. Now, if we understand the important role players for Afghanistan peace are Pakistan, the immediate neighbor. Then we have Russia and the America, right? So these are the most important players, but USA is going out of this arena, right? So Russia, and then we have China. So these are important countries, and then Pakistan. So this is what is the Troika about. However, now see, Afghanistan also has an important neighbor, Iran, and India is also a proxy neighbor in some or the other ways. So these are two important countries which are to be made participants in this Troika Plus dialogue for peace in Afghanistan, intra-Afghanistan peace talks, right? Because Taliban and the mainstream parties in Afghanistan are at loggerheads about how the future should be, and there is increased violence. Therefore, these external role players are also important to play a part here. Also, these players want peace in the region, right? They do not want this extremism, this kind of violence to go out of their country, out of Afghanistan. So that is why Russia is very cautious. That is why China is very cautious. India is also very cautious. So this is why participation of these countries is very important. There are various kinds of dialogues initiated by many countries. For example, Doha process initiated in Qatar. Then we have Moscow format initiated by Russia. And then we have Istanbul process. We have studied about this in one of the snapshots earlier, right? So about Turkey, right? So these are the various ways countries are ensuring that peace be prevailed in Afghanistan. The idea is not to increase and to eliminate terrorism, separatism, and extremism in the region, and ensure that this does not spread to the nearby areas, right? Because especially all these countries around are secular and pluralist, and therefore this kind of extremism spreading to these areas is threatening the peace of the region. So this is the main idea. Now, India was not present in the last Troika dialogue, but India has been made a participant this time, invited, and India definitely is an important role player. Why? Because in some or the other ways, we see influence of China increasing in the region. We also see that Pakistan might also utilize Taliban against India, right? So this is how India is an important role player in the region, right? Growing violence, we have also seen growing violence as USA is taking exit from Afghanistan. So these are important ways in which India must participate in this dialogue, right? Snapshot 2 is on how RBI is helping the policy transmission through external benchmarks, right? So what is external benchmarks? For example, this repo rate is an external benchmark, right? So repo rate is the rate through which RBI ensures that money is transmitted in the economy or taken out of the economy, right? So if repo rate is decreased, that means RBI wants more banks to take more loan, right? So this is what repo rate decreasing means. If repo rate is increased, it means RBI does not want the economy to have more money, more finances. It wants the money to get curtailed, right? Reduce the money flow in the economy. So this is what the external benchmark means. What is policy transmission? Now, through this, the idea is to ensure that the idea of the policy gets transmitted in the economy. If the idea is to reduce inflation, so then the idea is to reduce the flow of the money in economy. But RBI cannot reduce the flow of money directly. It can only decrease the flow through increasing repo rate. This is what RBI can do, right? So how is RBI trying to help here? Let's see. Now, banks directly participate with people, right? So if banking lending rates are linked to RBI's repo rate, that will be the magic, right? If repo rate increases, bank will increase their rates automatically. So this means pegging of the interest rate with the bank with repo rate of RBI, this external pegging, this is helping the economy, right? Because this time during COVID times, RBI has ensured that repo rate decreases. Why? It wants more flow of money in the economy, right? And it has ensured that the banks follow this repo rate pegging. That means bank lending rates will also decrease. Banks will able to give finances to people, to MSMEs, to private organizations at economical rates now, because repo rate is less. So RBI has ensured that this is done. RBI has given this command to banks that you will be pegging the lending rates with the external benchmarks, like, for example, repo rate. So this is an important way transmission is happening, and this is what RBI report has mentioned. This is the update. Now it says that the outstanding loans have increased. Outstanding loans have increased here from 2.5 to around 28%. It indicates more loans are being taken. That means policy transmission is happening effectively, right? Better than MCR. So this is MCLR, is marginal cost of lending rates. So now, earlier there was it was given to the banks that there'll be a base lending rate below which they will not be lending, right? So this, every bank would have different rates, and therefore there'll be no synchrony. But if the lending rates are pegged with RBI's repo rate, this will increase the policy transmission, right? So this is what this segment has mentioned. The third segment this article talks of is monetary transmission of policy. Now it says that it has been varied for varied kind of banks. For example, for foreign banks, it has been easier, right? However, for public sector banks, it has been tough because the composition of liability structure in public sector banks is different. Public sector banks has a lot of retail people, right? People like us, individuals who take loans, and these people have alternate instruments also. For example, they put money in small saving schemes, so therefore they have more competition, and therefore the passage of transmission, the transmission of this money in this economy through PSBs, public sector banks, has been tough. But foreign banks easier, because they have very standard customers, right? They take the loans instantly, and they don't have as much competition, right? So this is what the report says. Now, which are the external benchmark rates? So one is repo rate, the other one is treasury bill yield. What is yield? The yield means how much the return is on the treasury bill investment, right? So 3-month yield, 6-month yield, or any other benchmark which has been fixed by financial benchmark India Private Limited. So this is what the article mentions. So these are the main point here for pre-exam is that, do we have only one external benchmark repo rate? No, we don't have. We have other benchmark rates also. For example, 3-month treasury bill yield and 6-month treasury bill yield as well, right? So this is what the article mentions, right? The article also says that there are other factors which lead to the transmission of monetary policy. One is the external benchmark. The second one is margin of the bank. Now, every bank has got different margin. Margin is the amount of money it needs to keep itself afloat in the market, right? For example, it will need some profit so that it can grow. It will need some money so that it can pay its employees. So this is what is the margin of the bank. It will be different for every bank. Also, credit risk profile of the people. Now, people, they are very kind of people who are taking loan. So that is also an important determinant on how much policy will get transmitted. For example, in real estate, there could be a real difference. There could be different transmission of policy, and in the food sector, agriculture sector, there'll be a different policy transmission, because the loan lending capacity of people will be different in these different sectors, right? This is what the article is about. Snapshot 3 is on financially literacy curriculum. Now, this curriculum is an important curriculum for financial inclusion of the whole India. This has been included as a book in class 6, as a new elective book. The students can elect this book and study financial literacy through this, right? Now, this is a part of the financial inclusion in India, right? It includes 3 main components. We had discussed this previously. One is developing infrastructure. The second one is ensuring the services, government services and other services to all the parts of the country. And the third one is making people literate, financial literacy. So this time children will be used. Children will be the important people who are generating this kind of financial literacy in their family, right? So this is a new way of creating this awareness, right? So this is what the article mentions. For example, banking, security, modes of payment. It is not just about making payments. It is also about learning what is insurance. It is also about being able to start a business, right? It is also about understanding how the economy flows in the market, right? And it is also about a lot of other things which are a part of the market system, financial system. For example, the market system, right? Money market, the market in which cryptocurrency is dealt with. So all that is a part of the financial awareness and understanding, right? So this is what this significance of this article is. That is, now children also are participating through the class 6th book, right, in which they will be studying financial literacy, right? This is the update. We can also see what is the need for this. Need for this is because we can very clearly see what is the decimal rate of financial literacy in India, and especially in the gap, the rural urban gap. See, urban 33, rural 24. Gender, males are more literate, females are less literate. Age structure also, only the younger are literate and the elders are less literate. So this is how we can reduce the gap, by ensuring that the family trains itself through the help of children, right? Image of the day is on Shanghai Astronomy Museum. What a beautiful museum this is, right? Now, not only this museum, but we can see many structures in China which are as beautiful as this. So one simple Tianjin Library. This is one of the most beautiful libraries around the world, right? See, so China is innovating in architecture as well, right? So look at the architecture of this building, right? This building has been designed in the way various celestial bodies and cosmos geometry. This is not a symmetry, right? This is the geometry of cosmos, and also 3-body problem. So the structure has been on the basis of 3-body problem as well. 3 bodies in motion, right? So according to the motion of these 3 bodies and weight of these 3 bodies, what is the prediction of movement in certain direction? So this is a 3-body problem, and this is a problem in physics, quantum physics as well. According to this, the structure has been structure of this geometry, this architecture has been made. So this is what is Shanghai Astronomy Museum about, right? This is the largest museum of the world dedicated to the study of space. Terms and concept. The first term concept for today is Kapu community. This is a community from Andhra and Telangana region. Now, this community is in news because there was violence, because these community demanded for reservation in backward community, right? Now, why are this community significant in this area? Because they constitute 26% of nearly 26% population of this particular region, right? In Andhra Telangana region, right? There are other communities also like Reddy and Kamas. These communities are, although less in number, less in proportion in this region, but they are more dominant, powerful, politically more affluent, right? And this Kapu community is demanding for more representation through reservation in government jobs, right? Now, because of this, there was violence. Now, traditionally, this community is into farming, but they've also taken to trade and business activities because of development of the country. However, they have demanded the status, and government has now finally agreed for some reservation under economically weaker section category, right? So this is what is the news update about. Stand Up India scheme. Now, this scheme is in news because this scheme has been now extended up to 2025, right? Important to know about this scheme is that, firstly, now through this scheme, bank loan is provided, bank loan to one scheduled caste or scheduled tribe community, also to a women borrower. So first is SC/ST or to, and also to a woman borrower. So one SC or one ST from one bank. Second is woman borrower. The third is only a greenfield enterprise. That means a new enterprise. You cannot restructure the enterprise, the same company which is going in loss, and then you want to take loan. No, it has to be a new organization, greenfield enterprise, right? Not a brownfield. So this is the main difference between green and brownfield. So the fourth part is that it can be in manufacturing sector, service sector, or trade, either of them, right? So all these are the more important components. Now, this is for one particular bank, right? One particular bank, one particular bank branch. If there are 100 branches of SBI in a city, so all 100 branches will have to provide this loan, right? So 10 to 1 crore loan can be provided. Also, the margin money requirement has been reduced. Margin money is the amount of money I have to be able to take that particular loan. So it has been reduced from 25 to 15%, right? So this is an important update about Stand Up India scheme. Okay. Third is one district, one focus product. Now, every district can be given one product so that it can develop that particular product and develop a niche, sustainability of that particular product, and become the best seller in the market for that product, right? So that exporting is done, so that selling around the area and throughout India can be done through that product, right? So for example, if Agra has petha, right? If Mathura has peda, so these products can be developed and they can be made in a way so that they are the best developers of that particular product in the whole country. And this is how one can develop the benefit of scale, right? Scaling. So that means that particular product can be scaled to a faster level, to a more efficient category, and made more profitable for the locals. So every district will have one product, right? This is what India has initiated. Now, this is what Ministry of Food Processing Industry is doing. For example, achar can be made a specific product for a particular district. Similarly, a papad can be made a particular product for a particular district, right? They will be efficient, most efficient, and they can scale that particular product to the highest level so that they can utilize that by selling them throughout the nation. So how can they help? See, procurement of inputs, they'll become economical because more inputs are taken, so there'll be more savings there. They will have common services, training will be easier, marketing will be very easy. So this is how it is going to help. So this is an important innovative scheme, right? It can also be utilized in horticulture, animal poultry, fishes, aquaculture, etc., right? So the PM FME scheme, we have studied this scheme in one of the snapshots and feature article as well. So under this scheme, I had explained how Uttar Pradesh is making this particular product, one district, one focus product successful. Every district has to select a product, right? And they have to make them the best product in the particular district, right? So this scheme is called as formalization of micro food enterprises. So one food will be selected from one district and be made the best product in the all round growth of the particular product in the region. Now, editorial of the day. Today's editorial is on India's job and skill confusion, right? Now, jobs are decreasing, skills requirements are more, and we have the automation that we studied in today's feature article as well, right? So the article says, give the examples of Cult. Now, Cult is Hrithik Roshan backed, sponsored fitness regimen, right? So in urban areas, they have Cult fitness centers where traditionally we had people in fitness, they would train other people who would come in the local area, right? Now, as the whole economy turned digital and all the economy was in the COVID zone, where social distancing norm was followed, where work from home was followed, where people had to stay back at home, so the whole cult model changed, right? It automated itself. How? There were people who made app for the cult fitness, right? There were people who recorded the whole session, right? So digital subscription was given through cult, right? So this is how the cult system completely changed, cult fitness system, right? This is how some hot jobs got created and some got lost, right? So for example, we see the retail sector, right? Online shopping has become so relevant in these days. The shopping malls have now become empty, right? Similarly, food, right? We used to go to restaurant spaces have reduced now. Online food delivery has increased in urban areas. So this is how we see certain jobs in certain areas, in certain segments only, right? Now certain jobs, as we studied in the feature article as well, right? High expert job which require creativity, decision making, right? Expert critical analysis thinking. Now those are the jobs where there are more growth, right? Skilling and upskilling is required in this era. So this is what the article has also presented, right? So the article talks of a massive rethink of our approach in the job category, right? In which skilling and reskilling is more important all the time because of automation in technology. Case study of the day is on participatory forest management in Nilgiri in Tamil Nadu. Now, because of increased urbanization, population pressure, etc., there was an increase in loss of biodiversity in the Nilgiri, biodiverse area of Nilgiris, right? Now, there was less fund and there was neglect also. And this is when conservation of species started in Gudalur's Gene Pool Garden. This is a garden which was in Nilgiri in Tamil Nadu, right? Now, conservation was the first step, right? Through creation of this garden, right, in 1989. After that, the first step was to have endemic species secured. Endemic species are the species which were only found in that specific area, right? For example, shola trees, right? Second is the endangered and threatened species. So there were certain species which are endangered, they were vulnerable, and their elimination from the earth was almost certain in the near future. So they were also made secure. The third step was to ensure ecotourism. Now, ecotourism ensures that all these conservation becomes a part of the economy, becomes a part of economy where they can be made profitable. Their existence can be made profitable through tourism, right? And most important was participation of people. So the nearby communities were also made to participate. And this is how the whole ecosystem got completed, right? So this is a successful case study of participatory forest management. What did it lead to? It led to conservation of these particular species. It led to economic empowerment because the benefits were shared with the locals, right? So participatory forest management is a successful way of ensuring the symbiotic existence of all the species in the region, right? So this is the case study of Gudalur Gene Pool Garden in Tamil Nadu. Please remember this, keep watching and keep learning. Thank you.